Alrighty, so news of the week on this Sunday afternoon, and despite the fact that for the past couple of weeks there's been just non-stop reports and non-stop rumors that has gone on in the league, these last couple of days it's been relatively quiet, and that there isn't really a lot of worthy news that I need to put on the board for the news of the week episode. But the first news that I want to talk about is something that is very big and something that kind of surprised me a little bit when I first heard about it, is that MLS is actually entering final talks to award Charlotte its 30th franchise of MLS. And what I'm kind of surprised about this is the fact that MLS decided to award the 30th franchise in MLS history to Charlotte this soon, and that I thought they were going to probably announce it somewhere next year. And probably the most surprising thing is that we talk about how there's been just so much competition in terms of getting that last spot of the expansion race to 30 team in MLS. And yet, for the past couple of weeks, I haven't heard a lot of competition, besides the fact that I heard Las Vegas is one of those teams that, is in that competition to get that MLS franchise, and that they, of course, are working on the stadium due to get there. And that's it. I mean, other cities that I heard in the competition, like San Diego, Indianapolis, all these kind of teams, there's really been not a lot of news that I heard from them that they're going to be the 30th franchise. And now, right away, MLS decided that, we are going to award Charlotte their franchise in MLS as long as they get the stadium deal done. The stadium deal is really the final hurdle that Charlotte needs to kind of clear before they actually get this 30th franchise. And that, I think, once that hurdle is going to jump, I think MLS most likely is going to officially make that announcement. But still, I'm kind of surprised, with not just because of the fact that it's announced so soon, and I thought it was going to be maybe a little bit later than usual, but it's also, there just doesn't seem like a lot of competition, and that MLS kind of just made up their mind so quickly in terms of who's going to be the last team in this race to get 30 team in MLS. Sasha Kljestan is set to return to LA and join the LA Galaxy, and originally when I first saw this, I thought, oh, he's going back to the Galaxy, which is where he started. Then I read that he used to be with Chivas USA, who, as everybody knows, they're no longer a franchise in MLS, and they're still to this day the latest franchise in MLS to be folded. But it seemed like he is gonna be heading back to LA, and he's gonna be joining what used to be the arch rival of LA Galaxy, known as Chivas USA, but now it is LAFC in the El Tráfico battle. But yeah, this is definitely an interesting kind of news, and I don't know if this is good for the Galaxy or bad for the Galaxy. I mean, the good thing is at least they get some veteran leadership in that midfield. The bad is that if you ask Orlando City fans, about Sasha Kljestan, they will basically tell you that he's basically washed up, and that he's seems like his career as a professional soccer player is winding down, and that he just isn't as impacted as he was a couple of years ago when he was with the Red Bulls. Lucas Cavallini set to leave Liga MX for the Vancouver Whitecaps, and I believe this a couple of weeks ago I reported that Lucas Cavallini was rumored to go to SKC, and I say, wouldn't this be a good move if one of those Canadian team is going to get a Canadian striker from Liga MX, because now they don't have to worry about using their international spot. And we always see whenever a Canadian player is linked, or a Canadian player that is not playing MLS, and they usually are linked with Canadian teams. And guess what? The Whitecaps probably heard my message and say that, hey, let's go and get this guy from Liga MX, and I think this would definitely be a good signing for the Whitecaps, because I know Lucas Cavallini, he isn't really lighting up with Puebla down in Liga MX, but the thing is, the Whitecaps really need a goal scorer. Like last season, besides the fact that their defense was an absolute mess, they cannot score goals last season, and they just don't really have that goal scored in this team. And if they can get Lucas Cavallini, that would definitely be a decent signing, and could be a guy that could be their main goal scorer for their team. So if I am the Whitecaps, I would definitely accept this deal, even though I know some people are saying that he's not really that prolific, and they show his stats at Puebla where he isn't really doing very well. But I will counter and say that, we have seen before when Liga MX striker comes to this league, they tend to do much better. And sometimes players just need a change of scenery, and especially a change of scenery that is going back to his home country. That will definitely really helps him and give him some familiarity if that, of course, is going to happen. So, yeah, we'll see if this, of course, would happen. And moving on into the next news is that Orlando City is reported to add Colombian U20 midfielder Andres Perea. They also are reported to make a transfer of Jermaine Cano from Independiente Medellin. And, with this rumor of them getting Andres Perea, this is just an example of how I think Orlando City this offseason, they're going to sign a couple of youngsters down in South America now that they have Oscar Perea. And Perea always tends to love to not only get some young guys into the main team that they've been with the academy of that MLS team for a couple of years, but he also liked to have some young kind of South American player to play in his team and try to coach them up. So this would definitely be a perfect signing for Orlando City. And as for this one, this one is interesting because Jermaine Cano, I know he's already 31 years old, but I heard he was doing very well with Independiente Medellin and he was scoring goals. And I think this might be kind of a replacement for Dom Dwyer, who, they pretty much know that Dom Dwyer time at Orlando City might be up, considering the fact that he hasn't really performed very well for the past couple of years. And, it's not surprised that Dom Dwyer, his numbers and his goal scoring has really dipped because he's getting older, and usually whenever a striker has these numbers that is kind of falling down as they get into the to over 30 years old, we say that they're basically on the wrong side of 30 and that they're just going to continue to decline, and that it's clear that Orlando City really need a replacement for Dom Dwyer, who was supposed to be their main goal scorer for this team. The Chicago Fire is reported to hire a new sporting director, while Nelson Rodriguez set to remain with the club. So I know if you're a Chicago Fire fan and you heard this news about the fact that they're getting a new sporting director, you were ready to celebrate because you know that Nelson Rodriguez had probably moved on from the club. Unfortunately, no, that is not the case, because it was also reported that Nelson Rodriguez is going to remain with the club and he's just going to go on to the business side. And I know Nelson Rodriguez is a very unpopular man in the Chicago Fire fan base, and a lot of fans want him to be out. But at least the good news is he's no longer controlling in terms of the transfer and what the Fire needs in terms of improving their team, and that hopefully with this new sporting director that they're gonna get will do exactly that. I mean, right now the Chicago Fire, they are just in a new era where not only they're going back to Soldier Field for the first time since back in the early 2000s, and the fact that they of course got the new logo, which I'm not going to comment anymore about that, even though I've been hearing just numerous barrage of how people hated the logo, and I expect throughout the season, the first thing I'm going to see whenever there's something related to the Chicago Fire is gonna popped up is that they're gonna talk about the new logo being absolute hideous. I think it's just getting a point where I feel like people just need to move on, and that it is what it is. I know it's not pretty, but there's nothing you can do. And even this Chicago Fire front office says that despite all the complaints that we got, we are not going to change it. And for me, I feel like the fan base need to be more focused on whether or not if this team is going to do well under this new ownership, rather than just think about the logo itself. Like, you don't win an MLS Cup just because you have the prettiest logo in the league. So, yeah. But moving on in the next news is that Atlanta United have re-signed Jeff Larentowicz off of free agency. So, originally they denied his contract, but it seems like Atlanta wants to give Larentowicz one more try, and well, not really one more try, but give him like one more year, since he's now to 36 years old. And I think a lot of that has to do with, since Michael Parkhurst have retired this season, they want to have Larentowicz there as their new leader at the back four position. So yeah, I think that's why they of course decided to sign him off of free agency. But I won't be surprised if Larinovic, who is now going to be 36 and turn 37 next year, he's going to, in a couple of years, I think he's going to think about hanging his boots. I mean, he still can perform in a high intensity level, but as you get older as a defender, and this is right around the age where you, as a defender, you are going to start to slow down, and that this is really the time when defenders start thinking about hanging their boots up. And then finally, in terms of this week news, the CCL draw will happen tomorrow, so we're going to find out which opponent out of the 5 MLS team is going to be facing in the first round, and I'm pretty sure all these MLS teams will be looking at this and hope that they do not draw a Liga MX opponent. Although, knowing the draw and knowing how they're going to do it, they actually have like 2 different pots that they're going to draw out of to determine the first round matchup, and I believe there's only like 1 team from pot number 2 that is a Liga MX team, and all the other Liga MX team is going to be in pot 1. So, there's only one possibility that an MLS team could to draw a Liga MX team, and, I'm pretty sure all 5 of those teams are hoping that they're not the one team that is going to get drawn by a Liga MX team. And I forgot which Liga MX team was it in pot 2. I think it was Cruz Azul that was in pot number 2, and all the other Liga MX team is in pot number 1. And by the way, all of the MLS team is going to be in pot number 1, just for those that wonder why exactly is there going to be only one possible matchup that a MLS team will face Liga MX. But yeah, we'll see how that, of course, will turn out. I might even make a video talk about just kind of react to the draw and see how it's gonna go. But either way, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. I know this was relatively a short news of the week video, mainly because, as I said, there wasn't really a lot that I need to talk about this week or these last couple of days in terms of news of the week. But hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, if I missed some important news, let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.